are all about new beginnings. And with the upcoming new moon in Taurus, we're gonna have opportunities for new beginnings with a Taurus-like flavor. All right, thanks so much for watching my video. I hope that was informative. I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself. All right, but yes, we have this new moon in Taurus, which is what it sounds like, new beginnings with a Taurus-like flavor. However, what I find really interesting about this upcoming new moon is that it is going to encompass the energy of completion. So it's not even just about starting something new. It's about acknowledging what has come from the past, what you've been working on, what we've wrapped up with a beautiful bow, and now what we are sort of walking away from. And we're using the wisdom that we gained from whatever we worked on in the past to start or to take advantage of this new beginning, all right? So it's almost like we're simultaneously looking in the rearview mirror and looking forward at the same time, all right? It's gonna be interesting nonetheless. So in this video, I will be discussing everything you need to know about the upcoming new moon in Taurus and what you can do to make the most of it. So stick around, you definitely don't wanna miss this. Hello, my loves. As always, I hope that this video finds you well and in excellent spirits. If this is our first time meeting, welcome. My name is Mel. I'm a professional astrologer, and I'm the founder of divinefeminineworks, where I help people unlock their divinity and discover their magic. And as always, if you are returning, welcome back. So today's video is all about the upcoming new moon in Taurus going down on Tuesday, May 7th at 11:21 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right, so you know the deal. New moons are all about setting new intentions and planting new seeds. It's the start of the lunar cycle. The lunar cycle starts again, and in a way, so can we. The slate is wiped clean and we begin anew. It's the planting of the seed. It's the beginning of the manifestation process, right? So I always love to think of new moons as being pregnant with possibility. It all depends on the seeds that you plant. Now, the fact that this new moon is going down in the sign of Taurus means that we can plant things that are resourceful. We can plant seeds of material things. We can plant seeds of value and worth, things that are tangible. Now, with Taurus being the first of the earth signs, this new moon is like sort of being at the start of like a major project. I'm not sure if you're familiar with tarot, but the energy and the card that I keep seeing in my mind when I think about this new moon in Taurus is the Three of Pentacles, and how someone is commissioned to build this giant cathedral, right? That is sort of the energy signature of this new moon in Taurus, okay? Now, like I said before in the intro, completion is also going to be super important with this particular new moon, okay? And it requires us to re-examine sort of what we've done in the past. What have we accomplished? What have we built? And I use the word built intentionally because Taurus is a tangible sign. Taurus is the sign of building foundations, right? So what have we built? What foundations, what structures have we built in our lives in the past? And what did we learn from that project that we can now use going forward as we build a new structure, a new foundation, and as we start new projects, all right? Now, there's going to be a very sort of, I want to use the word heavy. When I say heavy, I don't necessarily mean intense or overbearing. Heavy as in substantial. Think of like a cinder block and how that's used as part of a foundation. There's going to be a lot of this cinder block heavy kind of energy, right? Arduous perhaps, but heavy nonetheless. And that's what you're using to build this foundation upon. These tangible, very fortified things are probably going to be of use to you during this new moon in Taurus. So what exactly do I mean by all this? This kind of sounds a little crazy, right? So let's break it down step by step. And of course, we start off with the basics. So first things first, new moon energy. Plain and simple, like I said before, new moon energy, it's the start of the lunar cycle. It's about setting new intentions and planting new seeds. The slate is wiped clean, and so are we. We can start all over again. This is when you figure out what it is that you want to do. What are your goals? What are you trying to achieve? Now, the answers to those questions are going to depend largely on the energy signature of Taurus. Now, if you've watched any of my videos, especially as of late, because I feel like I've said this ad nauseum, it is best to follow the flow and the cycles of nature. Now, I say this a lot in terms of manifesting because, we have free will. We are powerful spiritual beings having a human experience, of course. And so we can create our realities. And so it's like you have a magic wand and you can create whatever it is that you want in your reality. Money, love, material possessions, fame, whatever it is, right? Every moon cycle, every sun cycle will tell you what's best to be focusing on at that time. So Taurus being a practical earth sign, this is the time to plant seeds for practical earth sign-like things. That could be money, resources, material possessions, luxury items, big ticket items. You want a boat? This is when you're going to want to plant the seeds of that boat or of that yacht, right? You get what I'm saying? So this is the time when you're going to want to start building the foundation for something tangible, something material. Now, we're currently in Taurus season as the sun is in the sign of Taurus, right? So we came off of Aries season where it was like we were focused on our desires. We were focused on what we want, right? And we started taking action step toward those things. Now, when we get to Taurus season, which we are currently in, it's about putting in the work to facilitate those desires that we began to recognize in Aries season. So those big ticket items, those Taurus-like things that you want to plant at this new moon, you're going to start putting in the work to get them, right? Now, one of the other things I want to highlight about Taurus energy is the concept of value and worth. Because apart from just being materialistic and apart just from being about comfort and luxury, Taurus has a lot to do with value. Taurus is, after all, ruled by Venus, and Venus has, I said that so weirdly, Venus has a lot to do with money, but money in the sense of value. What is something worth? And I feel like this new moon is going to have you sort of in the mindset of what things are worth. What is valuable to you, right? It may be hard, or maybe it's just hard for me, but it could be hard for you to work for something that you don't think is valuable. Time is not only a very valuable resource, some view it as a very scarce resource, right? Because our time is limited. You wouldn't want to spend lots of time on something that is not valuable to you, that has no worth to you, right? It's not worthy of your time, so you don't want to spend time on it. So this isn't just about, I want $1 million, I want this car. What is it worth to you? What kind of work do you have to put into it in order to have this thing? That is going to be something that we're going to be thinking about, or at least things that we're going to be urged to think about at this new moon in Taurus. And this is very, very important and will be highlighted when I talk about the astrology of this particular new moon, because it's going to have a lot to do with work. So you should get comfortable with that. All right. So now let's move on to one of my favorite parts of these videos, which is the numerology of this new moon in Taurus. All right. So I always love examining the numerology because it gives you a little bit more information on what we are examining. All right. So in order to examine the numerology, we have to look to the degree of the new moon. So this new moon is happening at 18 degrees of Taurus. In numerology, we always reduce double, triple, or however many digits always down to 1. So 1 + 8 is 9. Therefore, this new moon in Taurus is sponsored by the number 9. Now, 9s have a lot to do with endings. And I alluded to this earlier in the video when I talked about completion. 9 is the number of completion. Because once you get to 10, you're starting all over again. So 9 is sort of the critical mass energy where something comes to a culmination, where something comes to a close, where we're wrapping things up. Now, that may seem counterintuitive because we're talking about a new moon where we're starting things. So why are we talking about wrapping things up? It's because what we've wrapped up, what we've completed, comes with lessons, comes with experience, which leads to wisdom. And that wisdom is going to be very necessary with whatever we're trying to manifest at this new moon. Whatever new thing we're trying to start, whatever new seeds we're trying to plant, we are going to be taking cues and lessons from what we did in the past. It doesn't necessarily mean that you did the exact same thing in the past, but there may be something in the past that you've completed that's wrapped up that has the same sort of flavor or the same lessons that need to be learned or need to be expanded upon. Okay. So maybe let's take this as an example, right? Let's say that in the past, you wanted a new car and you realized that you had to work overtime in order to get this car. Now, you worked your ass off, right? Anytime there were overtime hours, you took it. You literally worked your ass off to get this car and it left you tired. Not only did it leave you tired, you got the car and you probably enjoyed it for like 2 days. And then after that, you're like, damn, because now I got to work for this car note, right? Or maybe if you bought it outright, you know, you don't have a car note, but you have other expenses. And so you realize that you have to keep working to maintain this thing. Now, going forward, maybe you want a new work car, or maybe you want something else that's tangible, right? Another big ticket item. But you're realizing you don't necessarily want to go about it the same way as you did before. The lesson that you learned is it's not worth it to me to have to work all those overtime hours. How else can I get money? Maybe I should start investing my money so that the dividends I make from my investments can pay for these big ticket items. And so now you're getting into the energy of sort of reworking your financial situation. So it's not even just so much that you're buying something, you're changing how you view money, especially money as it relates to work, so that you can have this thing. Now, that's just a very tiny example of how this could play out for you. But I hope you understand what I'm trying to teach you with this, is that what happened in the past, what you completed in the past, is full of wisdom and gems that you are going to be using at this new moon and beyond in order to manifest something new and tangible in your life. Okay. Now, apart from being about completion, there's also a somewhat spiritual element to the energy of the number 9. Okay. It's like taking spirituality, spiritual knowledge, and using it in the real world. That's very much a part of the energy signature of 9. And that's where that wisdom comes in, right? And that wisdom could be spiritual. It could just be experiential, right? But wisdom and spirituality are sort of weaved into the energy signature of not only the number 9, but this new moon in Taurus, okay? Now, in terms of the astrology as it relates to the numerology, the number 9 is associated with Sagittarius, and Sagittarius casts a wide net. Sagittarius is optimistic. Sagittarius looks at the bigger picture. Okay. This is important because when we're talking about creating something tangible, right? Manifesting something tangible at this new moon in Taurus, it's like you have to keep the bigger picture in mind. If you don't, you're going to get lost in the day-to-day work that you will need to do to achieve this thing, right? And that optimism is what's going to keep you going. Because yes, it is great to think about what it's like to be in that new car, maybe even that yacht, okay? However, when you're working day in and day out and saving money, right? Because obviously you're going to have to do that. Sometimes you're not as motivated. So that energy of the number 9, as it is expressed through Sagittarius, keeps your eye on the prize and on the bigger picture. Okay. Now, when it comes to the tarot card associated with the number 9, we're talking about the Hermit, and the Hermit is wise. The Hermit retreats and finds enlightenment within him or herself. And again, that's where this undercurrent of wisdom comes in. Wisdom gained through experience, okay? So again, it's not like you're starting brand spanking new fresh with this particular new moon. It's more so about, what did I do in the past? What did I learn from it? What experiences did I have that I can use as a reference point for what I'm trying to do right now? So wisdom, as expressed by Sagittarius with the number 9 and the Hermit with number 9, okay? Now, finally, the other thing I like to look at when I am examining the numerology is not what I like to call, but they're called the Sabian symbols, which are basically archetypal stories for each degree of the zodiac. So when it comes to 18 degrees of Taurus, the Sabian symbol is a new continent rising out of the ocean. Okay. So it's something new and tangible, right? A continent is something tangible. It is land. It is rising out of the ocean. Okay. It's new life. It's a new surrounding. Okay. It's perhaps what was going on underneath was in preparation for this emergence, but it's almost like being on new uncharted territory. And so this is also what we're going to be feeling with this new moon, going into a new place. Now, using the example I used before about, the old car that you had to work overtime for, and now you want something new, perhaps the way that you went about getting this car, working overtime, saving, the traditional route, that was what you were used to. Now, in your wisdom, you realize that there can be probably a better, easier, and faster way to do this. You're now in new, uncharted territory. The way that you're structuring your financial life, as it pertains to this example, is this new continent rising out of the ocean. It's new territory. It's new land. It's new surrounding. It's a new mindset, right? It's a new day. So a lot of what many of us are going to be experiencing with this new moon is a new surrounding, a new situation, a new way of looking even at an old situation. Okay. Again, completion and wisdom from the past is being used to develop something new into the future. All right. So now that we've talked about the numerology, let's talk about the astrology and see exactly what's going on in the sky at the time of this new moon. All right. So astrologically speaking, there's two things that I want to point out for this new moon in Taurus. Number one, the sun and the moon. Obviously, those are the major players of any new moon, right? And so a new moon is when the sun and the moon are conjunct, meaning that they occupy the same space in the sky. And both the sun and the moon will be at 18 degrees of Taurus. So Taurus energy is all up and through this new moon, hence why it's called a new moon in Taurus. Okay? So again, the energy signature of Taurus, which has to do with material things, dependability, building foundations, worth, value, that is going to be the undercurrent bedrock energy of this new moon. Now, I kept talking about work before, right? And I said that it's very important with respect to the astrology. That is because the moon is also, the sun and the moon are going to be sextile to Saturn, which is in Pisces. Saturn is all about work. Saturn is about work that builds upon itself. Saturn is about struggle, a little bit of adversity, setbacks, delays. Saturn not necessarily the most friendliest of planets. However, the one thing I want to point out about Saturn that's very important here is that it fosters longevity and commitment. Saturn will stabilize something. This is important because if you are in uncharted territory, like I mentioned before with the energy signature of this new moon in Taurus, you want something that's going to last. You don't want something that's going to be fly by night, something that you manifest today and it's gone tomorrow, right? You want stability. So there are going to be ample opportunity, especially because we're talking about a sextile. A sextile is an astrological planetary aspect that represents opportunities. There are going to be ample opportunities to create something that will stand the test of time, something that will last. Longevity, something that you could even think about it in terms of generational wealth. What you create today may be something that your future generations can enjoy. Now, going back to my example, my mundane example of you got a new car before, you're trying to manifest a new car or boat now, right? in using the wisdom that you learned from that previous experience, now you are fashioning your finances differently. Now you're setting yourself up for stability. You're setting yourself up for long-term wealth, generational wealth, just by using the wisdom and the experience from that past situation to do this new thing this time around better. It's like the side effect of reworking how you get money to get this thing. It's like the side effect or the byproduct of that is financial stability, which can ensure that you have a good life and can ensure that your family and generations to come can also have a good life. You see how this is kind of just becoming a lot bigger than what you think it is? You think you're just trying to get a yacht, right? Yeah, you get a yacht, but you could also pass that yacht down to your kids. If you set up your finances well, not only can you have a good life, but when you pass on, you have something to leave to the future generations. This is what you have the potential to create right now. Right? And this is super important because a lot of people, this is the tip that they're on right now. This is the hype that they're on. Generational wealth. We're breaking generational curses. Guess what? You have the opportunity to do that right now at this new moon in Taurus. So you're going to have ample opportunity to create not only longevity, but stability, right? Now, this is not going to necessarily be easy. It's not going to be hard, but it may not be easy. Okay? So it's going to require work. It's going to require jumping through hoops, maybe. It may require you to overcome adversity or certain obstacles, right? Saturn energy is the school of hard knocks. And so it's going to be up to you to stay the course, right? Planting the seed today doesn't mean that you enjoy the fruit today. We're talking about the long haul here. We're talking about a marathon, not a sprint, okay? So it's really important that you stay the course, despite how obstacle course-like the course may get, okay? And again, this is preparing you for the future and for the long haul. So there are going to be opportunities for stability, opportunities to create really tangible things in your life that are worth something to you, that are valuable, perhaps not even just for you, but for people in your life as well. So a lot can be accomplished with this particular new moon. And speaking of which, now that we've talked about the numerology and the astrology, let's talk about manifestation and how best to use the energy of this new moon in Taurus. All right, so I said this before, and I will say it again in every new moon video. New moons are about setting new seeds, planting new seeds, and setting new intentions. It's the start of the manifestation cycle. So this is the point in the manifestation cycle when you do your manifestation work. You figure out what it is that you want and you do a ritual, you set the intention. You get what I'm trying to say, right? So yes, this is the time when we are actively manifesting, or when we begin to actively manifest. Now, keep in mind that we are working within the confines, or I don't want to say confines because I don't want it to feel limited. However, we're in Taurus season. This is a new moon in Taurus. So when it comes to manifesting, you'll want to do things that are practical. Now, one of the things that always comes to mind with me, especially when I'm talking about earth energy, and since we have Saturn playing a role in this new moon in Taurus, like I mentioned before, one of the things I love to do with earth energy is planting things, right? So taking a seed, rubbing it between your hands, imbuing your energy into it, speaking your desire into that seed and literally planting it, and then watching it grow, nurturing it, and so forth and so on, right? But you want to do practical things to manifest at this new moon. Now, it doesn't have to be a whole ritual situation. It could literally just be practical or like common sense, right? You want a big ticket item, maybe you should open up a separate savings account or maybe an investment account. Doing something like that gets the ball rolling. Doing something practical, a practical action step toward the thing that you are trying to manifest is what is going to be best, okay? Now, I'm someone who I really like to listen to my intuition. And so whenever we get to a new moon, you definitely want to spend some time in meditation and allow your higher self to really guide you and let your intuition speak to you as to what you should be doing. Because you can go online, you can come on YouTube, and you can find a whole bunch of people telling you a whole bunch of different things when it comes to manifesting, right? However, your higher self will always know best. So spending some time in meditation to figure out or to receive assistance when it comes to what you should be doing, how you should be doing, even when you should be doing it is always the best thing. However, again, because we're in Taurus season, you want to do something practical. You want to do something earthy. You want to do something that symbolizes that you are doing something that is creating stability, longevity, and tangible things in your life. Okay. You can burn bay leaves. That's also a good one. I'm a candle magic girly. All right. So I will always do a little candle magic when it comes to manifesting anything, right? That's more of a fire element. However, when it comes to earth, literally planting seeds, I find is always the best. But again, meditate, listen to your higher self, and see exactly what works for you for this particular new moon in Taurus. All right. So now let's get into the messages from Spirit. All right. So what was so interesting was that when I sat down to meditate and receive these messages, it started pouring here like torrential rain, and I had the window open and it sounded so beautiful. It was so peaceful. It was like this feeling of peace, calm, and tranquility just sort of washed over me. But then the thing that I've noticed the most was that smell of rain hitting the earth, like hitting dirt, especially now during springtime. Like it's such an unmistakable scent, but it feels so earthy. It feels and it smells so down to earth. So I don't know. I don't even know the word to describe it, but that's what was permeating as I sat down to receive these messages. And it just reminded me of how this is planting season. This is when we are planting new seeds, when we are sort of getting into the dirt. We're literally cementing, planting the things that we want to see grow. Right? And that the water seemed to remind me of Spirit watering our intentions and allowing what it is that we want to grow, and Spirit helping us nurture it. It was such a beautiful moment, I must say. So peaceful, so calm, so serene. And the messages that came through, it's like Spirit was almost whispering them to me. Sometimes, I'm sorry, it's like sometimes when it feels like there's a feather under my nose. And so I will just I'm not gross. It's just that my nose keeps itching. It's like Spirit is like tickling my nose. But, sometimes when I get these messages, it's like Spirit is either screaming at me or is really sassy or can be very cut and dry depending on the energy. But this was like a really nice sit down with like a cup of tea and a friend. And someone just telling you, these messages in a beautiful, soft, calming voice. It's exactly how these messages came through. So it was such a beautiful moment. All right. So let's get into these messages. First, rain on fresh dirt earth. The smell. Some people love it. Some people hate it. All right. The sound, that sound of rain falling, that's soothing. It's this energy of freshness, renewal, and nourishment. So I think I kind of explained that before. Now, despite it being a Taurus new moon, there's definitely some Cancer energy here. And that Cancer energy is emblematic of the water, right? The rain that I saw, that nurturing, right? I said that rain is sort of like Spirit nurturing our intentions, and sort of a defensiveness, like a protection almost of our seeds. That is, it was giving very Cancerian kind of energy. So you may want to look at where Cancer is in your natal chart. This may give you a clue as to sort of a part of the story that is this new moon in Taurus, right? Like this is going down in Taurus. So whatever house Taurus is in your natal chart is definitely going to be highlighted. However, something about Cancer is very important. So this could be a Cancer person in your life. This could be something that happened signs, like you plant the seed in Taurus season and then in Cancer season, a leaf sprouts or something like that. Obviously, I'm speaking figuratively, but Cancer energy is sort of present here as well. Next, you're on the right track. Keep doing what you're doing. Follow the signs and the breadcrumbs. And I was shown someone who's like in the forest and they're following a trail of like breadcrumbs or stones or something like that. Okay. You'll need to be observant now, right? If you're following these breadcrumbs, if you're following this trail, you need to look to see where the trail leads. You need to look to see where the next sign, where the next signal is. So it's definitely a time to be observant. And it's also a time of action. So make sure that you are taking action at this particular time. Next, what you're building / cultivating at this time is protected, but still be vigilant and don't let your guard down. So understand that spirit is like, okay, I see what you're doing here and I'm providing protection, but don't let your guard down. Have common sense, okay? Like make sure that you're not doing something to put what you're building or cultivating in harm's way or allowing outside forces to mess with it. Spirit's got you protected, right? But you also have to be vigilant. And again, don't keep your guard down. Okay. Create and implement clear boundaries. Put a fence around your property. And I was literally shown like a house and someone erecting a fence, right? Now, this is where my lawyer brain comes in. I heard the phrase adverse possession. And in legal speak, adverse possession is, let's say you have a plot of land, right? You have your house on your land, yet it's not necessarily demarcated where your property ends and someone else's begins. Let's say, unbeknownst to you, your neighbor encroaches on what's considered your land and maybe they put a shed there. Now, years go by, none of you have problems. You and your neighbor are just fine. However, the fact that the neighbor put a shed on your property could be considered an improvement, and therefore they can kind of usurp your property from you because it wasn't clearly demarcated and they somewhat improved the property. It's a lot. You spend your whole first year of law school learning about adverse possession. However, when you put up a fence, it lets people know what's yours and that they can't cross these boundaries. They can't improve on something that is yours. Okay, so keep that in mind with this new moon. You have to demarcate what is yours. Now, I don't know how that's going to play out for you, but this was a very important message that Spirit wanted to impart upon you. So let people know what's yours and what they cannot mess with. Next, clear some space. What you're growing, cultivating may take up more room than you think. Especially if we're talking about something tangible. You want a new couch? Maybe the couch that you get is actually bigger than the space you have allotted for it. Like that's a very mundane example. However, create space, declutter, make room, make even extra room for what it is that you're trying to build, cultivate, or create at this point. It will likely be bigger than you anticipate. Next, speaking of decluttering, you need to clear mental clutter. Otherwise, you aren't going to be able to see things clearly. Get your mind right and be mindful of what you are mentally ingesting, okay? Pretty self-explanatory. Declutter your mind. Get your mind in alignment with what it is that you're trying to do, right? We said with the number 9, which is the number that is sponsoring this new moon, has a lot to do with Sagittarius. Sagittarius is like, keep your eye on that prize, all right? Declutter your mind. Be careful of what you're listening to, who you're believing, who you're letting, convince you, right? Have a healthy mental diet right now and declutter what is not necessary. Okay. This next message was just a bunch of words. Home, safe, home base, headquarters, defense, protection. That's it. Next, it's important to take inspired action at this time as opposed to merely being reckless or impulsive. You may be inspired to take certain risks. Check in with your higher self before making any moves. Essentially, meditate, before you make any moves. Your moves need to be in alignment with your higher self. This is a time for action. You may even want to take reckless action. However, you want to take inspired action, which is inspired by your higher self. So check in with your higher self first before making any moves. This is a time of positivity. So remember that. And Spirit was like, you need to remind people of this because the going is going to get tough. Like I said before, we're building things of value. We're building things that can stand the test of time, things that are, longevity is the name of the game with whatever we are creating at this new moon. Requires work. There are times when you don't want to. There are times where you don't feel like it. There are times when you're like, damn, I wish there was an easier way. Stay the course. And remember that all of this is working out for you. It is a positive thing. That's it. This is a very, very, very fertile time. Be very intentional and in some cases, careful about what you are conceiving. It's also a very emotional time. So point blank with this message, this is a time for pregnancy. This is a time for getting pregnant, conceiving children, a very emotional time as well. Hence that Cancer energy I was feeling before. And Cancer has a lot to do with that mothering energy. So if you are not in the market to be having children right now, especially if you are a woman, okay, you know what to do. Be careful because this is a time when you could easily get pregnant. Now, it just doesn't have to do with pregnancy. Conception is easier right now. Hence why you need to declutter your mind and keep your eye on the prize, all right? Now, what was that message before? Be mindful of what you're mentally ingesting. What you're mentally ingesting can impregnate your mind, which can cause you to conceive certain things. Now, if these things that you're conceiving are not in alignment, not only with your higher self, but with what you're trying to achieve, it's like right? It's like you're conceiving something you don't want. So be very mindful of what you're giving life to right now, what you are conceiving. Lots of opportunities. I heard spoiled for choice. So lots of opportunities. Remember I said this before, there are going to be opportunities for longevity, opportunities perhaps for generational wealth, lots of opportunities, several opportunities perhaps. All right. So be discerning in what you give your attention to. Figure out what is worthy of your time and your effort, what you value the most, and put your energy and effort behind those things. New emotions, feelings, or relationships may experience an argument or a debate. Stand your ground on what you think or believe, but try to understand the other person's point of view. So this was a very specific message, okay? It was very much about that Taurus kind of energy, being stuck in what you believe, being convicted in what you think or believe even, right? And so this may cause a rift with someone. This may cause an argument, maybe a heated debate. Don't waver with what you think, but also try to understand the other person's point of view, point blank, period. And then finally, be clear about your feelings and your truth, okay? Again, with this feelings energy, it has an undercurrent of Cancer energy, so you may want to examine what that is like in your life. But I think this message is self-explanatory. Be clear about your feelings and your truth. Stand convicted in that. Remember, Taurus is fixed. It's stubborn. It's convicted in what it thinks and believes. So be convicted in your truth. Be convicted in what you believe and don't waver. All right, my loves. So that concludes this video on the upcoming new moon in Taurus. I sincerely hope that you were able to get at least one important piece of information that you can use going into this new moon and beyond. For information on my products and services, all of that is either tagged to the video or in the description box below. So don't forget to check it out. Thank you so much for tuning in. I wish you nothing but the best for this upcoming new moon, and I will see you in my next video. Take care.